Hello, everybody. Welcome back to some Overwatch League Pick'ems. We are entering in the final week of the regular season. Back here with Rudd. So what was your thoughts on the final week of APAC?
Uh, it definitely was a APAC, yeah. There wasn't really a lot to talk about. I mean, other than the fact that Valiant is getting knocked out. Uh,
Yeah,
so, and we end up seeing the last match of Valiant, I guess.
that's really unfortunate because it was okay, Valiant definitely it's possible. Valiant had a possibility of winning, of getting into play-ins. All they had to do was beat the charge, and they couldn't. They had to beat the charge, and then they also had to lose the spark, which is a bit more to ask for. But they also could have beaten the dragons, which, with the way that they had been sandbagging the tournament, it seemed like that could have been a possibility. But as we saw, Shanghai kind of performed to where we would expect Shanghai to perform in any other tournament. So yeah, APAC. If we thing right now, it is Seoul first seed, Shanghai second seed, Philly third seed, and then Spark, Charge, and then Hunters. Will those three teams will play in the play-ins, in which the winner of, I'm assuming, Charge Hunters will play, and then the winner will face Spark. That's my
And then the
assumption how
winner
this
of
one will
that
work.
goes on.
Huh?
Yeah. And then the winner of that goes on, yeah.
Yeah,
That's how it
it
works.
seems like likely likely team to be coming into playoffs alongside the first three is either the Hunters or the Charge. My prediction more so is the Hunters. At
Yeah,
least
that's my
that's me.
prediction as well.
Charge definitely has a possibility, but I think when it comes to Charge versus Hunters, I think Hunters it definitely has the greater potential of winning. Uh, West Region Week 3, again, not a whole lot much to talk about other than Paris almost beating the Vancouver Titans. Really surprising matchup, I'm going to be honest. But again, another thing that I want to bring up is Dallas not being able to pick up a victory against Houston on land. Uh, that was a match to see, man. Like, I don't get what was happening with Dallas this week. Dallas just wasn't performing to the top of where we would expect them to. At least on Saturday. I mean, they picked up a
Yeah,
fairly
it's something like
straightforward win against the Rain, but that match
Yeah,
against Houston
it's
was.
not like Houston or it's not like Dallas was like the worst team this week
Oh yeah,
because
no.
they clearly got a win over Reign, which more or less speaks to the Outlaws than it does about the Fuel. It just means the Outlaws were the better team for once.
And kind of with all that being said, we're entering into the final week, and with that, also we have the discussion of MVP. Uh, Voting has been open for a little while now, but I kind of wanted to wait until now to talk about it because APAC is now done, and we can kind of gauge more effectively who's most likely to be MVP of the season. Uh, Obviously, the likely people to be winning it would be players like Proper, Kevster, Hanbin, and Lip, with Profit, Smurf kind of being in the back of that. Uh, who is your prediction? Because I know you personally have floated kind of throughout who's between two.
Uh, you see, I think let's see. Personally, my prediction for the person to win out by a slight margin is Hanbin. I think Hanbin has been very consistently good throughout the season and has just absolutely dominated on the tank role on most heroes. He did have a little bit of a slip up in uh the second season to where he wasn't as good and he didn't really pick up the characters that he needed to. But I think every other season this guy has been an absolute menace. And I think he only narrowly gets it out from Proper because I feel like Proper's impact, they have about the same amount of impact on a team, but I think, you know, I before this season, I probably would have gave it to Proper since Shock hadn't really slipped up as much, but because of this last season, I just feel like the Dallas Fuel have kind of been in more control, and they did win that title. I think had the Shock won a title, I would have probably gave it to Proper, but since Fuel has a title, I think that's a lot more important. That's why I'm giving it to Fuel. Honorable mention though, honorable mention to Proper for the reason I said before. I think my third pick is probably Smurf. Smurf has been basically Hanbin levels of a threat in the APAC region. Just been so good. And he's arguably not even had the slip ups like Hanbin had that like second week. I just don't feel like the Soul Dynasty has had as much of an impact as the Dallas Fuel have had. I think those three are like probably my two top or my top three. And then maybe Lip as well is probably my fourth, but I think those four are better picks than the rest of the four. And honorable mention is Shu being the only support on here. You know, sports just really getting like less spotlight. I feel hopefully they get more impactful as the year goes on, but maybe that's just an Overwatch 2 thing. I don't know. But
Yeah,
yeah, Hanbin's my pick for MVP.
I do want to say I have been very against the majority of this MVP listing. Most specifically with the last three here, Zest, Hottie, and Kai. I think that they honestly don't belong on here. Especially Hottie. As much as I love Chotty, as Reinhardt plays, he was not MVP candidate material, especially as a tank. When it comes to players like Dante, who have been absolutely dominant, uh, like Hanbin and Smurf as well in comparison to Hottie. Like Hottie is like there's a reason why Florida is a middle tier team right now, and I'm not saying that Hottie is a bad tank. I think he's definitely one of the better ones this season, but he definitely hasn't been such a playmaker for the Spitfire as many of the other players on this list. Uh, I've been, as a person myself, my vote is for Lip. I think Lip. The quick the other issue I've had with this list is Merit. I feel like Merit and Lip are two very similar players, but I feel like Merit is honestly always been a lot better than Lip, which is why my vote's going to Lip because obviously Merit's not a choice. So Lip is kind of my second one. Lip has been the second place Sojourn, second place Soldier. Basically, any hit scan player that's hero that's been meta, Lip has been either first, second, or even third on that role, and he's just been easily the most dominant hit scan player in the league, next to Merritt, obviously. But Lip been probably the best player on the Dragons and probably the best player overall in APAC, even better than Prophet, Smurf, and Zest. But I do have to agree. Hanbin and Proper definitely are big candidates, and I think Lip does have a shot. Honestly, I think that he is been a lot more consistent than Proper, which is why I feel like Proper is kind of a third place MVP here.
I feel like the community census is kind of around Proper Hanbin. Like those are two. I think.
But we also have to think
Per, yeah.
when we look at the. I'm trying to see if I can find where it talks about how much of a percentage it is. 25% of the fan votes. Popular vote. I mean, last year was what was it, Kevster? I'm trying to think of who was like the popular vote, and everyone was like, okay, yeah, this player is winning, and then became Fleta. It was like kind of a shock to everybody. I was it Super?
No, I don't remember what you're talking about. I think
I know
last
last
year
year.
wasn't even a Fleta. It's Leave.
Oh yeah, it was Leave. I'm thinking of 2 years ago. There was definitely someone over like everyone was surprised at Leave winning MVP. I feel like I don't think Leave was like the one everyone was thinking about.
I think it was. I don't know. I think it might have been someone from Shanghai.
I think no, that was the year of Lip. That was where everyone's like, okay, Lip deserves it. Lip is gonna get it, and it goes to Leave, which was a bit of a shock. Lip has been a consistent player since he's got onto the team, and I think that this is his year to finally get that moment. And hopefully he gets it. I mean, I wouldn't be too upset if anyone in the top row, Proper, Kevster, Hunbin, or Lip, get it, because I think all four of these players are some of the best this league has seen ever, not just this year. But now I want to turn our attention back to Pick'ems because there's still a week of play left, at least when it comes to the West region. And the season's it's pretty much locked who's making it into play-ins and who's going straight to playoffs. It's just a matter of who's in which exact spot. And to start that off, though, we have London versus New York. London is fighting for either fourth or fifth place right now in the seeding for North America, while New York is out. They're even below Vancouver, if I'm not mistaken. But regardless, personally myself, I have this going fairly close. What about you?
I just have it like a standard format in favor of the Spitfire.
So I
It's New York just isn't a team to like impress me that much. I just think that London's got a pretty good, probably gonna have a pretty good handle on them the entire series. They'll probably mess up a map because maybe something with them not being prepared. But yeah, I'll just give them a map 4. I think with the teams, I think a lot of the teams that are already out are giving a lot of the teams a scare because they got literally nothing to play for, so that makes them all the more scary sometimes. And most of these teams want to go out with a bang because I think that's how most teams are. So maybe we'll see something from them, but I'm not counting on it myself.
I do agree with you to a certain degree. I think that where like London and New York, I think are gonna have a fairly back and forth matchup. But I want to like reference some stuff with this path or with the rest of this tournament. They've dropped a map to Paris. They dropped a map to Vancouver, and they got swept by both Dallas and the Gladiators. Like I feel like London's got this hands down, but I think that New York is going to have a lot closer of a game against the Spitfire, just because I feel like that they are not doing so well in this meta. I think that's for some reason just not London's meta right now. Next up is a match I don't think we need to talk about at all. The Shock and the Paris Eternal. Clearly going to be a 3-0 on the Shock side. The only way Shock...
I mean, they finally got their W in this tournament against Atlanta, and Atlanta's a significantly better opponent than Paris. So they're not like Vancouver. I don't think they're really gonna go map 5.
There is.
I'm pretty.
I do have to say though, there is one way that the Shock do not take first seed or even second seed because they're currently in third. Is if they lose to both the Paris Eternal and the Spitfire. That's the only way that they can that they will not take first or second seed because both Gladiators and Dallas are not playing. Shock can only beat them, so clearly it's gonna happen. Shock take the win over the Paris Eternal 3-0. Next up is a match that I find to be a little bit harder of a prediction: the Toronto Defiant and the Florida Mayhem. Personally, myself, I have Toronto winning in a 4-map series. I think that Florida is not looking good. Like they're definitely not, what we'd expect from like the kickoff clash. And Toronto is had quite quite a countdown cup. They've gone from beating the San Francisco Shock to being pretty cleanly beaten by the Vancouver Titans in the same week. Uh, it's hard to predict with Toronto Defiant, but I think regardless, Toronto has this. It's just a matter of how close of a game can Florida bring to them.
I think personally that yeah, you're kind of right. Uh, I think that Toronto Defiant has returned to being the mid-Ronto Defiant, but even mid's capable of beating Florida Mayhem right now. They're not in a good state at all right now. I mean, what didn't they just like barely make it in, right?
No, they're actually above Boston right now.
Well, that's practically barely.
Yeah, but
But
I mean,
anyway,
even then, Vancouver's been knocked out this week too, so it really hasn't been all that close.
but yeah, that's my
Florida's fighting for ninth right now in seeding, so really take that as you will, I guess. Next up, though, is another match that's I feel like is actually pretty easy to predict. London and Shock. I mean, again, referencing London in their matches against the other top three teams this tournament, they've got swept each time. I don't think it's going to be any different here.
yeah. Like to think that Shaq actually, just end their regular season off with a nice W, wrap it up with a bow tie, and then they could focus on playoffs, which is what I feel like they've been looking forward to as of this moment.
Following up that, we go back to the New York Excelsior from earlier, and we talk about them against the Boston Uprising. Definitely a matchup to see. I mean, clearly Boston's winning this. I think Boston's looking pretty decent this tournament. They've definitely had their hiccups. They've definitely had their problems, and they have a pretty easy week this week going against New York and Paris. I mean, do they really have a like? Does New York even have a chance of beating Boston?
I just have a hunch it's going to be a 3-0. It's not any major uh like nail in the coffin for New York Excelsior, but I feel like Boston's probably going to turn up these last two matches because they're facing two of the easiest opponents. So Boston's finally going to be able to show they're finally just going to be the better team, and that's probably to give them enough confidence to show that they're the better team. Because normally they're fighting an uphill battle, but this week they're the ones who are going to be on the other side of that uphill battle. And since they're facing both teams that have been knocked out, yeah, I think Boston's gonna have an easy time.
I mean, let's be honest. Boston could just throw this week, get 3-0'd by both New York and Paris, and still be fine. They'll just be 10th. And I don't think that really matters to them. Because I think even if they win both of their games and Florida loses both their games, Boston's still 10th place. So, really, doesn't matter for Boston.
And we all know that a team that doesn't matter is always a scary team.
Correct. Speaking of teams that shouldn't really care, the Houston Outlaws. Guaranteed fourth seed for North America. Made it into playoffs. They don't need to play in play-ins. Against Florida, who is, again, vying for ninth place. Florida's been a struggle team for Houston, though. I mean, let's be honest. Houston and Florida have had quite a back and forth rivalry this year. Is this like is there possibilities for Florida to win this?
Okay, you're the Outlaws and you just be the Fuel. Can you get any higher than that right now? Come on,
Getting
get
grand finals,
higher.
yeah, there is higher.
Yeah, actually, yeah, getting any
beating
tournament win,
beating
any
the
title.
Shock, beating the Gladiators, and the Fuel all in one tournament, there is higher.
Yeah, the only higher they can get is a tournament title, but we'll
Yep.
see. But
They're yet to get one. This is the
unless
year. This is the year. This is the year.
anyway,
Crystal
it's just gonna be
ball.
3-0. We can move on.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, Florida, I don't think they really stand a chance against Houston, but I mean, again, Houston's one of those teams that just sometimes have those off days. So we definitely could see Florida somehow pull off a Map 5 victory over the Outlaws. It really wouldn't surprise me.
If they lose to, if they lose to the Mayhem, or if they lose their upcoming match, that is going to be like major upshaking in the power rankings, dude. No one's gonna
Listen,
know what to predict.
They lost to the New York Excelsior in a Map 5. They can. They could do it. And it hasn't affected their power rankings yet. But speaking of surprises, one thing that would personally surprise me is if Paris takes a map against Boston Uprising.
Me though,
I don't think
surprise me.
Boston will lose a map to Paris. I mean, even though Vancouver went to a map 5 against Paris, it's still I honestly believe that it's Boston that is just a far superior team in this matchup.
Yeah, so part of me is thinking Paris is gonna get a map, but I think that more or less that came to Vancouver's incompetence and probably overconfidence.
Or just lack of caring.
Caring, yeah. Oh, I think the only time they actually cared was when they were like, "Oh crap, we're about to lose to the worst team in almost." Well, I was about to say the worst team in Overwatch League history, but
Shanghai,
we've seen some real stinkers.
2018 Shanghai, and Florida, and
But
2021 LA. Honestly, a lot of them. But yeah, no, Boston. I think they have this. I don't. I mean, is there possibility for Paris to take a close series to the Uprising? Possibly.
yeah, I have definitely noticed an improvement with this Paris squad. Like
Yeah, this tournament
when
definitely
they
is
were
a.
first introduced, they were like awful and they like couldn't take any maps, but they were actually able to, you know, get a map 5 against uh the Titans earlier, which is pretty
As I
cool.
say, they went map 5 against Vancouver in week 3. Week 2, they
They also
did play.
took they took a
Uh,
map off of
yeah,
London
they took a map off London, so this is
in week one.
definitely an improvement to the Paris Eternal. So I mean, there is definitely
Improvement
possibility.
that's too little too late, I
I
feel.
will give Paris a map. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm gonna give Paris a map. Not much past that. I don't think they could take a map 5 to Boston, because I mean, there's a very clear line between Boston and Vancouver when it comes to skill, and that's just gonna come through here in this matchup. Speaking of a fine line of skill, though, Toronto and Houston. How can Houston lose this? Like they
Well, the same
can't.
reason you gave for Florida, but
Yeah,
then again,
it is.
we gave that game a 3-0 to the Houston Outlaws. So,
Here's the thing, though.
uh,
Houston will lose to the terrible teams. They won't lose to the middle tier teams. That's what we need to learn about the Houston Outlaws. They will gladly lose a map 5 game to a bottom of the barrel team, but they will not do that to a middle tier team.
well, if we know anything about Toronto, or should I say Mid-Ronto, they are definitely fit the bill as a middle tier team. But so does Florida in a sense, maybe. They seem
Yeah.
like bottom of the middle, and Toronto Defiant is just the middle of the middle. So either way, I think both of them are gonna get 3-0'd. The team that beat the best team should be able to beat the middle tier teams. That's we're just thinking about the Houston way though.
Yeah, and I kind of want to, since we're done with Pick'ems, that is the end of Countdown Cup as we head into play-ins. We have. I don't know if you would know off the top of your head how your Pick'ems are going to be putting up your play-ins bracket, but for me, it would leave. I want to say if I want to say it is Toronto versus Boston, and then Florida versus Washington. And I kind of want to quickly talk about those games.
We can talk about those next time you feel.
I mean, this is
You
kind of
know,
going into like our predictions. I want to kind of like make my prediction of who's making it into playoffs. If that makes sense. Because I mean,
uh,
personally, I think that this is definitely an exciting playoffs, regardless of if you look at, you know, even if it's like Justice, someone like Justice in Florida make it, or Justice and I mean basically anyone other than Toronto makes it. It's like an exciting like bottom two teams coming into this. But like definitely, this is looking to be in probably one of the most enticing grand finals since inaugural season, where really there was quite a few teams that had possibility to win compared to like season 2, 3, and 4, where it was like, okay, yeah, it's like Shocker Vancouver, Shocker Shanghai, Shanghai
Shanghai or
Dallas.
Shanghai.
Like this year, I feel like there's a lot of teams that have potential to win. I mean, Shock, Dallas, Seoul, Gladiators, basically anyone in top six seeds has an opportunity to winning. Even the Houston Outlaws, even in their like horrendous tournament performances, I think Houston has a shot.
Personally, I'm thinking top five, but go off.
But I mean, that's a lot of teams that are expected to win. I mean, like we genuinely haven't seen that since inaugural season. Like, who are you exactly predicting to win grand finals? Just like a random like guess of who now. Now that we know that like the at the end of the countdown cup and kind of more of an idea of how the meta is looking going into playoffs.
Um, it's well, judging that most of the time the MVP isn't on the team that wins grand finals most of the time. So I'm just gonna say, you know what? I think Seoul might do it.
Could this be Seoul's time?
Yeah, random prediction. Seoul makes it to grand finals and wins.
So it's not
It,
2020.
it's gonna be 2020, but better.
Here's the thing though: is it going to be a sweep?
It's gonna be ooh.
Because it hasn't.
I would really love to see the
Isn't
first ever grand final map 7.
yeah? Cause
Actually, I
map
mean,
grand finals has always gone 4 maps.
it's always gone 4 maps or 4 and 2.
I mean, what year was that? I thought because
Seoul and Shock.
did it? Yeah, because I was gonna
Yeah.
say Shanghai swept Atlanta last year. Inaugural season, London swept Philly, and season 2, Shock swept Vancouver. I
Uh,
thought that they swept Seoul as well, but I guess I'm wrong.
nope. It was the first time they've ever went 4-2. I'd love to see a 4-3 though.
So would I. But I mean, personally, I
Who
thought
who's making it to uh who's making it to grand finals but not winning, do you think?
uh, Shock.
Shock.
I
Ooh,
think Shock are gonna get second place, but I
interesting.
don't actually. No. I think it's gonna be Seoul. I think Seoul's getting second place to the Los Angeles Gladiators. I
I
think
was
this
thinking
is.
Dallas Fuel's gonna be the number 2.
I think it's definitely one of those four that are going to be winning. Uh, Gladiators, I feel like it's definitely more likely. But I mean, again, with going into playoffs, we have Kiriko coming in, and she's looking to be probably one of the most influential supports of the year, which is saying a lot since a lot of this season has been dictated by the support line. Kiriko's definitely going to be heavily influential on the meta. So I think it all just depends on who's got the best Kiriko player, and that I could easily see that being Shanghai. Having like Izayaki on Kiriko, Lee Jae-gong on Lucio, just absolute terrifying looking combo.
I mean, you could literally say that about any team. I mean, Shock with its double flex support composite or composition all the time. They could really use Kiriko, I feel. Violet can pick up like almost any support.
I mean, we need blood hungry
So
support players to really benefit.
yeah,
So I mean, Houston's even another one with that. With I'm
creative,
complete, I'm completely blanking. Uh
great,
who?
creative.
Yeah. Well, creative as well as oh my god, I hold up. I am gonna break the fourth wall, I guess.
Just go down.
Yeah, it is Lastro. That's what I was thinking of, Lastro. Uh yeah, Lastro definitely as well. Creative, I didn't even think about creative, but yeah, creative 100%. Houston's got a
I think
really blood hungry support
yeah.
line. Gladiators do as well. Dallas as
Oh
well.
shoot! Oh shoot on the
Yeah,
Krika. I didn't even
Shu.
think of that. That's crazy.
Shu on
Uh,
Kiriko. We got I mean Chio to a degree, but honestly, I'm looking more at Lastro and creative as well as Izayaki and Lee Jae Gong more than anything. But who
I
knows?
think
We could even see some DPS players flex over the support role for this. But
maybe Dante picks up
yeah, Dante
the,
plays all three
the
roles in
Kriko for
another
some
in
reason.
a
Yeah.
season. Dante would be only the second player to do so this year in ever. That being the first one being Mirror, but oh no, Mirror was the first to do it in one game. I think over in like season 1 and 2 there were times where people played all three, but that's statistics I don't know. But that does it for Countdown Cup. We're going into playoffs. Definitely looking to on. I'm just saying this now. This is the best. This is going to be the best playoffs ever. Calling it out. This is going to be the most exciting playoffs that we've ever seen. But that was all for me. If you have any final words,
Well, I'm interested to see who the first ever Overwatch League team to win an Overwatch 2 Grand Finals is gonna be.
Houston.
And
Honestly, probably
I'm
not.
interested.
But
I'm interested to see you know, it should be like season one of Overwatch 2. Just saying, really is a sequel. Why are we still going with seasons from the first game?
yeah,
Don't know.
that's how statistics work. That is all for us. Looking forward to playoffs. Looking forward to this final week. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you guys. Would it be next week? I honestly don't know. Do you know?
Oh,
Do
figure
you,
that out next week.
Yep, we'll figure it out. See you guys either next week or in 2 weeks for play-ins, where we see who is gonna be the ones. The two teams from the West, one team from the East to be making it to Anaheim alongside Houston, Los Angeles, Dallas, San Francisco, Shanghai, Seoul, and Philadelphia. See you guys next time, I guess.